The message that would change Earth's destiny forever came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Every screen across the globe suddenly flickered, replacing cat videos and cooking shows with the stern visage of an alien being. Its skin was a pale lavender, eyes pitch black, and what might have been a mouth moved in perfect sync with the booming voice that echoed from every speaker. "People of Earth," the alien intoned, its voice a mix of disdain and boredom. "I am Grand Admiral Zexra of the Galactic Empire. Your pitiful planet has been scheduled for integration into our glorious realm. You have 30 Earth rotations to surrender unconditionally. Resist, and you will be annihilated." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving billions in stunned silence. Panic erupted within minutes. In Washington, D.C., President Elena Rodriguez stood before a hastily assembled press conference, her face a mask of controlled fear. "My fellow Americans, indeed all citizens of Earth," she began, her voice quavering. "We face an unprecedented threat. I have been in contact with world leaders, and we are united in our resolve to protect our planet. But we must be realistic about our chances against such an advanced civilization." Similar scenes played out in capitals across the globe. In Beijing, Premier Lai Wei spoke of China's long history of resistance against foreign invaders. In Moscow, President Volkov vowed that Russia would never surrender. In New Delhi, Prime Minister Gupta called for global unity in the face of cosmic threat. But behind closed doors, a very different conversation was taking place. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a bunker unknown to all but a select few, President Rodriguez stood before a wall of screens. The faces of 24 world leaders looked back at her, their expressions grim but determined. "Operation Poseidon's Wrath is a go," Rodriguez said without preamble. "Admiral Chen, what's our status?" A Chinese naval officer stepped into view on one of the screens. "Madam President, all 6 Leviathan-class carriers are at 100% readiness. Support fleets are in position and cloaked. We can launch within 3 hours of your command." Rodriguez nodded. "Excellent. Dr. Mbeki, how are the weaponry upgrades progressing?" A South African scientist appeared, excitement shining in her eyes despite the grave situation. "The quantum disruptors are fully integrated into all primary and secondary systems. Based on the alien transmission, we believe their shielding will be no match for our tech." "Let's hope you're right," the American president murmured. She squared her shoulders and addressed the assembled leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've prepared for this moment for half a century. Now we must play our parts to perfection. The world must believe we are panicked, divided, and on the brink of surrender." Chancellor Schmidt of Germany spoke up. "My intelligence services have crafted detailed resistance plans that we will strategically leak. They're convincing but ultimately futile against a superior force. It should keep the aliens occupied and overconfident." "Good." Rodriguez nodded. "Remember, we need to buy time. Every day we can delay their invasion is another day to fine-tune our defenses." The leaders signed off one by one, each returning to their role in the greatest deception in human history. As the screens went dark, Rodriguez turned to her chief of staff. "Get me Secretary Wu," she ordered. "It's time to send our diplomat to meet the aliens." 48 hours later, Dr. Amelia Holloway stood on the launch pad of Cape Canaveral, squinting against the Florida sun. A slender woman in her 50s, with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a severe bun, she cut an unassuming figure in her simple blue suit. "Dr. Holloway," President Rodriguez approached, flanked by Secret Service agents. "Are you prepared for your mission?" Amelia nodded, her expression neutral. "As ready as one can be to negotiate humanity's surrender, Madam President." Rodriguez lowered her voice. "Remember, your job is to stall. Use every diplomatic trick in the book. We need at least 2 weeks." "Understood," Holloway replied. "Though I doubt they'll be particularly patient with a primitive species like us." A wry smile crossed the president's face. "You'd be surprised how often arrogance and impatience go hand in hand. Good luck, Doctor. The hopes of humanity go with you." As Holloway boarded the sleek shuttle that would take her to the alien flagship, news cameras captured the solemn scene. Commentators speculated on the futility of the mission, some praising the bravery of the sacrificial diplomat, others decrying the waste of time when surrender was inevitable. Little did they know that even as Earth's last hope rocketed towards the stars, a very different scene was unfolding beneath the waves. In the inky depths of the Marianas Trench, a colossal structure stirred to life. Stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, the U.S. Leviathan was an engineering marvel that would have stunned the world, if the world had known it existed. 5 other behemoths like it waited in secret bases beneath the Arctic ice cap, the South China Sea, the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and the Indian Ocean. Captain Miguel Ortiz stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching as status indicators flickered from amber to green across a dizzying array of holographic displays. "All systems online, Captain," his XO reported. "Quantum drives are spooled and ready. Weapon systems are hot." Ortiz nodded, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "Maintain stealth protocols. We wait for the signal." As the hours ticked by, the world above descended further into chaos. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders called for prayer and repentance. Doomsday preppers emerged from their bunkers, only to find that their worst fears paled in comparison to the reality of alien invasion. In major cities, riots broke out as people fought over dwindling supplies. Governments imposed martial law, their militaries struggling to maintain order while also preparing for a hopeless defense against the coming storm. Through it all, Earth's leaders played their parts to perfection. President Rodriguez appeared haggard in every press conference, dark circles under her eyes as she pleaded for calm. Premier Lai made a show of inspecting China's nuclear arsenal, knowing full well that such weapons would be useless against the alien threat. In orbit, Dr. Holloway engaged in a delicate dance of diplomacy with Grand Admiral Zexra. She marveled at the opulence of the alien flagship, its corridors lined with what appeared to be living metal that pulsed with soft light. The Grand Admiral, for his part, seemed to vacillate between amusement and irritation at the humans' attempts to negotiate. "Surely, Your Excellency," Holloway said on the 5th day of talks, "you can understand our reluctance to simply hand over control of our planet. We have a complex system of governments, each with its own laws and customs. It will take time to bring everyone into agreement on the terms of our integration." Zexra's black eyes narrowed. "Your prattling grows tiresome, human. I care nothing for your primitive political squabbles. You have been given a great honor, to join the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Yet you waste my time with endless questions and delays." Holloway bowed her head in feigned submission. "I apologize, Grand Admiral. We simply wish to ensure a smooth transition. Perhaps if you could provide more details on how other worlds have been integrated, it might help allay the fears of our people." The alien leader let out a sound that might have been a sigh. "Very well. I will have my aides prepare a briefing on our standard procedures. But know this, my patience grows thin. If I suspect you are attempting to deceive me, I assure you, Your Excellency," Holloway said quickly, "deception is the furthest thing from our minds." As she was escorted back to her quarters, Holloway allowed herself a small smile. Another day gained, another day closer to humanity's moment of truth. Little did the Grand Admiral know that far below, beneath the waves and behind impenetrable sensor screens, the greatest naval force in Earth's history was making its final preparations. The fate of the planet would soon rest in the hands of 6 secret fleets and the men and women who crewed them. The Leviathan and its sisters waited in the depths, ready to shock the galaxy and rewrite humanity's destiny among the stars. The submersible Nautilus descended through the inky blackness of the Mariana Trench, its powerful lights barely penetrating the oppressive gloom. Inside the cramped vessel, Dr. Samantha Chen peered intently at the sonar display, her heart racing with anticipation. "We're approaching the anomaly, Captain," she announced, her voice tense with excitement. Captain Derek Hawkins nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the dim glow of instrument panels. "Take us in slowly, Martinez. Let's not spook whatever's down there." As the Nautilus crept forward, shapes began to emerge from the darkness. At first, they appeared to be nothing more than oddly regular rock formations, but as the submersible's lights swept across the seafloor, the truth became startlingly clear. "My God," Dr. Chen whispered. "It's a ship." The alien vessel lay half-buried in the sediment, its sleek lines unmistakably artificial. Despite being obviously ancient, with entire sections covered in deep-sea corals, it showed no signs of rust or degradation. "It's huge," Martins muttered from the pilot's seat. "Must be at least 500 meters long." Captain Hawkins keyed the ship's comm. "Topside, this is Nautilus. We've found something. Transmitting video feed now." 12,000 meters above, aboard the research vessel Challenger, Admiral Sarah Lockhart watched the live feed with growing amazement. She turned to her aide. "Get me the president. Now." Within hours, the area was swarming with naval vessels, their presence explained to the public as a large-scale military exercise. Deep below, teams of scientists and engineers worked feverishly to unlock the secrets of the alien wreck. Dr. Chen led the first boarding party, her heart pounding as she stepped through an airlock that, miraculously, still functioned after untold millennia underwater. The interior of the ship was a marvel of organic curves and pulsing bioluminescence. "It's like the ship is alive," she breathed, running a gloved hand along a wall that seemed to ripple at her touch. Over the next weeks, the team made discovery after astounding discovery. The ship's hull was composed of an unknown alloy that was virtually indestructible. Its propulsion system hinted at the ability to manipulate gravity itself. But most incredible of all was the ship's computer core. Dr. Raj Patel, a computer scientist who had been flown in under the tightest security, stared at his laptop in disbelief. I don't even have words. Their computing technology is centuries beyond ours, maybe millennia." Admiral Lockhart leaned over his shoulder. "Can you access their databases? Find out who they were, where they came from?" Patel shook his head. "It's not just a matter of technology. Their entire way of storing and processing information is alien, for lack of a better word. It could take years to fully decipher." "We may not have years," the Admiral muttered. She straightened up, addressing the assembled team of scientists and military personnel. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of this moment, your work here is classified at the highest level. What we've discovered could revolutionize every field of human knowledge, or lead to our destruction if it falls into the wrong hands." In the months that followed, a secret installation was built around the alien wreck. The world's brightest minds were quietly recruited, sworn to secrecy, and set to work unraveling the ship's mysteries. Progress was frustratingly slow at first, but as the team began to grasp the fundamental principles behind the alien technology, breakthroughs came at an astonishing pace. 5 years after the initial discovery, Dr. Chen stood in a hidden shipyard carved into the heart of a mountain in Colorado. Before her stretched the skeletal frame of what would become humanity's first true starship. "Beautiful, isn't she?" a voice said behind her. Chen turned to see Admiral Lockhart, now with a few more gray hairs but the same determined glint in her eye. "She's going to change everything," Chen replied. "But will she be ready in time?" Lockhart's expression darkened. "Our long-range sensors picked up an anomaly at the edge of the solar system last week. We think it might be a scout ship." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "They're coming." "Maybe," Lockhart nodded. "Maybe not. But we need to be prepared either way. How soon can we have a working prototype?" "The Leviathan will be space-worthy in 18 months, Chen said. "But to build a fleet capable of defending Earth, 5 years, minimum." The Admiral's jaw clenched. "Push harder. I'll get you whatever resources you need. We might not have 5 years." As it turned out, they had exactly 50 years. In secret facilities around the world, the Leviathan project progressed at a breakneck pace. Each breakthrough in alien technology spawned a dozen new questions, each answer opening up new realms of possibility. Gravity manipulation led to near-light-speed engines. Studies of the alien alloy resulted in impenetrable hull plating. The computer core yielded advancements in AI that bordered on the miraculous. Through it all, humanity waited, unknowing, as a select few prepared for a threat they prayed would never come. Now, as the Galactic Empire's ultimatum echoed across the globe, those 5 decades of frantic work were about to be put to the test. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a cavern large enough to house a small city, Captain Elena Rossi strode through the bustling command center of the U.S. Leviathan. Holographic displays flickered with information from around the world. Troop movements, resource allocations, and the latest intelligence on the alien fleet gathering in orbit. Status report, Rossi barked as she reached the central platform. Her XO, Commander John Taka, looked up from his console. All systems are green, Captain. Quantum drives are online and stable. Weapons are hot. The other 5 carriers report similar readiness. Rossi nodded, allowing herself a moment of pride. The Leviathan was a masterpiece of engineering, a seamless blend of reverse-engineered alien tech and human ingenuity. At just under 2 kilometers long, it dwarfed even the largest surface vessels. Its sleek hull was covered in microscopic scales that could alter their structure in milliseconds, providing near-perfect camouflage in space or under the sea. "What's the status of our support fleet?" Rossi asked. Taka pulled up a new holographic display. The Kraken-class destroyers are in position around the globe, cloaked and waiting for the signal. Our Triton fighter squadrons are on standby, pilots ready to launch at a moment's notice. A young lieutenant approached, his face pale. "Captain, we're picking up increased activity in the alien fleet. It looks like they're preparing for planetary invasion." Rossi's eyes hardened. "They're jumping the gun. Holloway must not have been able to stall them as long as we hoped." She tapped her comm badge. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency surface protocol. We go hot in 30 minutes. As klaxons began to sound throughout the massive ship, Rossi turned to her XO. "John, I need you to run a final systems check. When we break the surface, we'll be visible to the entire world, aliens and humans alike. We get one shot at this." Commander Taka nodded grimly. "Aye, Captain. We won't let you down." As her crew rushed to battle stations, Captain Rossi allowed herself one last look at the holographic display of Earth. Somewhere up there, the aliens waited, confident in their technological superiority. They had no idea what was about to hit them. "Helm," Rossi called out, her voice steady. "Take us up. Slow and steady. Let's not give away the surprise just yet." The massive engines of the Leviathan thrummed to life, and the giant carrier began to rise from its hidden berth. In 5 other secret bases around the world, its sister ships did the same. Humanity's secret weapon was about to be unveiled, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial Vanguard arrived with the arrogant certainty of conquerors. A fleet of sleek, predatory ships dropped out of hyperspace, their hulls gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, Commander Vexlor sneered at the blue planet displayed on the view screen. "Pitiful," he muttered. "Prepare the first wave. Let's show these primitives the might of the Empire." As the alien ships began their approach, the nations of Earth scrambled their forces. Fighter jets screamed into the sky, naval vessels took up defensive positions, and ground-based missile installations aimed their payloads at the stars. In Washington, D.C., President Rodriguez stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by grim-faced military advisors. "What are our odds?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. General Mbeki, the head of Earth's Unified Defense Force, shook his head. "Not good, Madam President. Our most advanced fighters are like gnats compared to their ships. But we'll give them hell." Rodriguez nodded. "Initiate Operation Hornet's Nest. Let's see if we can't bloody their nose a bit." Across the globe, carefully planned guerrilla tactics sprang into action. As the first Imperial shuttles descended towards major cities, they found not cowering populations, but elaborate traps. In New York, a squadron of alien troop transports flew between skyscrapers, only to be caught in a web of high-tension cables. The ships careened out of control, crashing into buildings or the streets below. In Beijing, Imperial ground forces marched confidently down empty streets, unaware of the network of tunnels beneath their feet. With a series of controlled explosions, entire city blocks collapsed, swallowing the alien soldiers. Commander Vexlor watched in growing frustration as reports of resistance poured in from around the planet. "Impossible," he snarled. "How are these primitives causing so much trouble?" His tactical officer, looking nervous, spoke up. "Sir, we're detecting some anomalies in their weaponry. Some of it seems more advanced than their general technology level would suggest." Vexlor's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Well, sir," the officer continued, bringing up a holographic display. "Take this engagement over what they call the Pacific Ocean. Our fighters were ambushed by a squadron of Earth aircraft. But look at their energy signatures." The commander leaned in, his expression changing from anger to confusion. "Those can't be right. These readings suggest weapons on par with our own technology." "Exactly, sir. And it's not just their air forces. We're seeing similar anomalies in their ground and sea-based defenses." Vexlor paced the bridge, his mind racing. "It doesn't make sense. Their cities, their infrastructure, it's all so primitive. Where did they get this technology?" Before the tactical officer could respond, alarms blared across the ship. "Sir," another crew member shouted, "we're detecting multiple launches from the planet's surface." "Missiles?" Vexlor asked, moving to his command chair. "No, sir. Larger. They appear to be ships." The view screen shifted, showing a swarm of sleek, dart-like vessels rising from hidden bases around the globe. They moved with a speed and agility that seemed impossible for their size. "Impossible," Vexlor breathed. Then, snapping out of his shock, he barked, "All ships, battle stations, prepare for engage." His words were cut off as the first wave of Earth's secret fleet opened fire. Beams of coherent light, far more powerful than anything the Empire had encountered before, lanced out from the human ships. Imperial shields flickered and failed under the onslaught. Aboard the EDF Artemis, one of Earth's newly revealed destroyers, Captain Zura Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "Multiple direct hits, Captain," her weapons officer reported. "2 enemy destroyers disabled, 1 destroyed." Chen nodded, pushing down the mix of elation and horror. They'd done it. Drawn first blood against a vastly superior foe. But the cost of failure was extinction, and the battle had only just begun. "Press the advantage," she ordered. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Don't let them regroup." Earth's fleet moved with choreographed precision, hammering the Imperial vanguard from multiple angles. Ships that humanity had spent decades perfecting now proved their worth, their hybrid technology confounding the alien invaders. On the ground, the tide began to turn as well. As news spread of humanity's secret weapons, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. Armed with reverse-engineered alien tech, they ambushed Imperial ground forces, using intimate knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. In orbit, Commander Vexlor watched in disbelief as his fleet was systematically dismantled. "How?" he muttered, more to himself than to his terrified bridge crew. "How could we have miscalculated so badly?" A violent shudder ran through the ship as another volley of fire from the human fleet found its mark. Warning klaxons blared, and emergency force fields flickered to life as hull breaches threatened to vent the bridge to space. "Sir," his tactical officer shouted over the chaos, "we need to retreat. We're no match for their weapons." Vexlor snarled, his pride warring with his instinct for survival. Finally, he gave the order. "All ships, fall back to Rally Point Gamma. Prepare for emergency hyperspace jump." As the remnants of the once proud Imperial vanguard fled, cheers erupted in command centers around the Earth. But the celebration was short-lived. In the White House Situation Room, President Rodriguez turned to her advisors. How soon before they return with reinforcements? General Mbeki consulted a datapad. Based on the intel we gathered from the wreck, and what we've seen of their FTL capabilities, I'd say we have 72 hours at most before the main Imperial fleet arrives. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Then we have work to do. Get me the other world leaders. It's time to bring the Leviathans into play. As Earth's defenders regrouped and prepared for the coming storm, the 6 massive supercarriers waited in their hidden berths. Crews ran final checks on systems that had never been tested in actual combat. Pilots reviewed simulations of battles against vastly superior numbers. Aboard the U.S. Leviathan, Captain Alina Rossi addressed her crew over the ship-wide comm. Men and women of the Leviathan, the moment we've trained for is almost here. In a few short hours, we will reveal ourselves not just to the enemy, but to our own people. The fate of our world, perhaps our entire species, rests on our shoulders. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. I won't lie to you. The odds are long, and the enemy is powerful. But we have spent half a century preparing for this day. We have technology they can't imagine, tactics they won't expect, and more importantly, we have everything to lose. Our homes, our families, our very existence. Rossi's voice grew fierce. So when the time comes, and that behemoth of an alien fleet darkens our skies, we will show them exactly what humanity is capable of. We will show them that Earth is not some backwater planet ripe for conquest. We are the descendants of explorers and warriors, of scientists and dreamers. And we will not go quietly into the night. A cheer went up throughout the massive ship, echoed in 5 other hidden bases around the world. As humanity steeled itself for the greatest battle in its history, the Leviathan and her sisters waited, ready to shock the galaxy and rewrite the future of an entire species. The Empire thought they had dealt with Earth's best defense. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The sky above Earth darkened as the full might of the Imperial Armada arrived. Thousands of ships, from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, filled the orbit. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Zexera allowed himself a cold smile. See how they tremble, he said to his assembled officers. Their pathetic resistance ends today. Commence the bombardment. As the first salvos of energy weapons rained down on Earth's cities, the planet's conventional defenses sprang into action. Fighter jets scrambled, missile silos opened, and ground-based energy weapons, relics of the recovered alien technology, fired back at the invaders. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. In Washington, D.C., now a smoldering ruin, President Rodriguez limped into the underground command bunker. Her face was streaked with soot, a makeshift bandage wrapped around her arm. Status report, she demanded, collapsing into a chair. General Mbeki looked up from a holographic display, his expression grim. It's bad, Madam President. We've lost 30% of our surface-to-orbit defenses. The aliens are targeting our major cities and military installations. Casualties are significant. Rodriguez closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself a brief second of grief. Then, steel entered her voice. What's the status of Operation Deep Strike? A hint of a smile crossed Mbeki's face. All units report ready. They're awaiting your command. The president nodded, then keyed a comm channel. This is President Rodriguez to all Leviathan-class carriers. You are cleared to engage. Godspeed. Beneath the waves of Earth's oceans, 6 colossal shapes began to move. On the bridge of the U.S. Leviathan, Captain Alina Rossi felt a surge of anticipation. All hands, battle stations, prepare for emergency surface protocol. The massive carrier, nearly 2 kilometers long, rose from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Water cascaded off its sleek hull, advanced stealth systems already engaging to mask its energy signature. Similar scenes played out around the globe. From the Atlantic, the Nautilus breached the surface like a mechanical whale. The Kraken erupted from the Mediterranean, while the behemoth rose from the icy waters of the Arctic. In the Indian Ocean, the Colossus broke the waves, and far to the south, the Titan emerged from its Antarctic hideaway. As one, humanity's secret weapons took to the skies. In orbit, alarms blared across the Imperial fleet. "Grand Admiral," a sensor officer shouted, "we're detecting multiple large contacts rising from the planet's oceans." Zexra's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. Impossible. Their orbital defenses are in shambles. What could they possibly? His words were cut off as the first volley from the Leviathan-class carriers found their mark. Lances of coherent light, more powerful than anything the Empire had ever encountered, sliced through the hulls of several destroyers as if they were made of paper. "Evasive maneuvers," Zexra bellowed. "All ships, concentrate fire on those new contacts." But the Leviathans were not alone. From hidden hangars within each carrier, swarms of fighters emerged. These were not the primitive jets the Empire had faced before, but sleek, agile craft that could operate in both atmosphere and vacuum. The space around Earth erupted into chaos as the true battle began. Captain Rossi's voice was steady as she directed the Leviathan's operations. "Target the enemy flagship. All auxiliary craft, engage and draw their fire. Weapons, prepare the main cannon." At the heart of each Leviathan-class carrier was a weapon of unimaginable power, a gravity lance, capable of briefly warping space-time itself. It was untested in actual combat, the energy requirements so massive that it could only be fired a handful of times before depleting the ship's reserves. As the Leviathan maneuvered into position, Imperial ships swarmed around it. Point defense lasers picked off incoming missiles, while energy shields flickered under the constant barrage. Shields at 60% and falling, Rossi's tactical officer reported. "Hold steady," the captain ordered. "Divert all non-essential power to the main cannon. We'll only get one shot at this." Across the battlefield, the other carriers engaged in similar duels. The Kraken's gravity lance punched a hole through an Imperial cruiser, the distorted space crushing the vessel like a tin can. The Behemoth's fighters executed complex maneuvers that left their Imperial counterparts spinning in confusion. But the aliens' numbers were vast, and for every ship destroyed, it seemed two more took its place. Earth's defenses, both on the ground and in orbit, were being systematically dismantled. On the Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Zexra watched the battle unfold with a mixture of rage and grudging respect. "Where did they get this technology?" he demanded. "How could we have been so wrong about their capabilities?" His tactical officer shook his head in bewilderment. "Sir, some of their weapons, they're like nothing we've ever seen. The energy readings are off the charts." A nearby console exploded as a glancing blow rocked the flagship. Zexra steadied himself against his command chair. "It doesn't matter. We still outnumber them. Press the attack. I want those carriers destroyed." Back on the Leviathan, alarms blared as systems began to fail under the relentless assault. "Hull breach on deck 17. Someone shouted. "Emergency force fields holding. For now." Captain Rossi gripped the arms of her chair. "Status on the main cannon." "Charged and ready, Captain. But our shields are critical. We fire, and we'll be exposed." Rossi's jaw set in determination. "It's now or never. All power to the main cannon. Fire when ready." The bow of the Leviathan began to glow, space itself seeming to warp around it. With a soundless flash, a beam of distorted gravity lanced out, crossing the distance to the Eternal Dominion in an instant. On the Imperial flagship, Zexra had only a moment to register the incoming attack before his world turned to chaos. The gravity lance struck the ship's midsection, the localized space-time distortion shearing the vessel in two. Emergency force fields snapped into place, but it was too late. Secondary explosions ripped through the dying ship as escape pods jettisoned in all directions. A cheer went up on the Leviathan's bridge, quickly silenced as the ship rocked under renewed assault. "Multiple hull breaches," the tactical officer shouted. "Shields are down." Captain Rossi opened a channel to the other carriers. "This is Leviathan. We've taken out their flagship, but we're heavily damaged. Request immediate assistance." The response came not from her fellow captains, but from an unexpected source. President Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain Rossi, this is POTUS. Help is on the way. Just hold on a little longer." As if on cue, new contacts appeared on the Leviathan sensors, smaller than the carriers, but radiating similar energy signatures. Dozens of ships rose from hidden bases around the globe. "This is Admiral Chen of the EDF Tesla," a new voice announced. "Earth Defense Force reinforcements have arrived. All ships, engage the enemy. Let's show them what humanity can really do." The tide of battle began to shift as Earth's reserve fleet joined the fray. Advanced destroyers and cruisers, hidden in underground bases and asteroid facilities, now revealed themselves. In the skies above Earth, humanity's final gambit unfolded. The Empire's overwhelming numbers were met with technology they couldn't comprehend and tactics they'd never encountered. As the battle raged on, the fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, hung in the balance. The Empire had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found themselves in the fight of their lives against a species that refused to go quietly into the night. The Leviathan and her sisters had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On countless worlds under Imperial rule, beings of all species huddled around communication devices, listening in awe and disbelief to the reports filtering through tightly controlled networks. On Xarlath, a desert world on the Empire's outer rim, Zivra, a young Xarlathian, felt her heart race as she listened to a contraband subspace transmitter. "Unprecedented defeat," the scratchy voice said. "The vaunted Imperial Armada, turned back by a species previously thought to be primitive." Her father, Korlath, a grizzled veteran of failed rebellions, shook his head in wonder. "I never thought I'd see the day," he murmured. Meanwhile, in the glittering capital of the Empire, panic gripped the Imperial court. The Grand Counselor, Vexnor, strode into the Emperor's private chambers, his usual composure shattered. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said, bowing low, "I bring grave news." Emperor Zorax II, a being of immense age and cruelty, turned his penetrating gaze on his subordinate. "Speak." "The Earth campaign, it's failed. Grand Admiral Zexra is dead, and nearly half the fleet is destroyed or captured." For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, with a roar of fury, the Emperor unleashed a blast of psychic energy that shattered priceless artifacts around the room. "How?" he snarled. "How could insignificant vermin defeat the might of our empire?" Back on Earth, the post-victory euphoria was tempered by the monumental task of rebuilding. In what remained of the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, President Rodriguez addressed a gathering of world leaders and military commanders. "We've won the battle," she said, her voice carrying the weight of recent events. "But the war is far from over. We've bloodied the Empire's nose, shown them we're not to be trifled with. But they'll be back, and in greater numbers." General Mbeki stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "We've analyzed the data from the captured Imperial ships. The Empire spans thousands of worlds across multiple galaxies. Their resources are vast. But, prompted Chancellor Lai of China. Mbeki allowed himself a small smile. "But they're overstretched, spread too thin. And now, thanks to our victory, cracks are beginning to show." The hologram shifted, showing reports from across the galaxy. Riots on core worlds, uprisings on the fringes, entire sectors declaring independence. Admiral Chen, her arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the battle, spoke up. "We have an opportunity here, a chance not just to defend Earth, but to reshape the galaxy." President Rodriguez nodded. "Agreed, but we'll need allies. Admiral, assemble a diplomatic corps. I want our best and brightest ready to reach out to potential friendly worlds." As Earth prepared to step onto the galactic stage, The ripples of its victory continued to spread. On Tyre Prime, homeworld of a warrior race long subjugated by the Empire, warlord Kavax watched the footage of Earth's ships in battle. His 4 eyes narrowed in appreciation of their tactics. "Contact these humans," he growled to his advisors. "Tell them Tyre Prime would be interested in an alliance." In the carbon dioxide seas of Epsilon Eridani, the collective consciousness of the Eridani hivemand pulsed with excitement. New variables had been introduced into their galaxy-spanning calculations. Consensus was quickly reached. Earth must be studied, its innovations incorporated. But not all reactions were positive. In the shadowy chambers of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Orcs II convened an emergency session of his inner circle. "The humans must be destroyed," he hissed. "Not just defeated, eradicated. I want their world cracked open, their species scattered to the solar winds." Grand Inquisitor Yexra, head of the dreaded Imperial Intelligence, bowed low. "It shall be done, Your Majesty, but perhaps we might learn from them first. Their technology, their tactics, they could strengthen the Empire." The Emperor's eyes flashed dangerously. "You dare suggest we learn from lesser beings?" "Not lesser, Your Majesty," Yexra said carefully. "Different. Dangerous. Understanding one's enemy is the first step to destroying them." After a tense moment, Zorax nodded. "Very well. You have 1 standard year. Learn what you can. Then we crush them." As the Empire plotted its revenge, Earth's first diplomatic missions launched into the stars. The EDF Magellan, a sleek exploration vessel retrofitted with the latest hybrid technology, dropped out of FTL on the edges of the Tyre system. Captain Amelia Sharp stood on the bridge, taking in the alien star patterns. "Send the greeting package we prepared," she ordered. "Let's hope the universal translators work, as well as the eggheads promised." Moments later, a gruff voice resonated through the ship's speakers. "Humans of Earth," Kavax rumbled. "Your victory has earned you the right to speak with us. Come, let us discuss how we might inconvenience the Empire together." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On some worlds, Earth's envoys were welcomed as liberators. On others, they faced suspicion or outright hostility. But everywhere they went, they found a galaxy in flux, the old order crumbling in the wake of Earth's impossible victory. Meanwhile, Earth itself was transforming. The destruction wrought by the Imperial attack was immense, but it provided an opportunity for renewal. Cities were rebuilt with advanced materials, incorporating both human ingenuity and alien technology. The Leviathan-class carriers, their hulls still bearing the scars of battle, became symbols of Earth's new role in the galaxy. In a secret facility beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Samantha Chen, the same scientist who had first boarded the alien wreck decades ago, put the finishing touches on a new project. "It's ready," she announced to the assembled world leaders. With a gesture, she activated a holographic display, showing a massive ring-shaped structure, the Bifrost Gate. "With this, we can create stable wormholes, linking Earth directly to our new allies across the galaxy." President Rodriguez stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. "How soon can we begin construction?" Chen smiled. "We already have. Asteroid mining operations began last month. We estimate the first gate will be operational within 5 years." As humanity took its first steps into a larger universe, the old structures of Earth began to evolve. The United Nations transformed into the Terran Confederation, a unified government tasked with representing humanity's interests on the galactic stage. But with new horizons came new dangers. Imperial spies infiltrated Earth's burgeoning off-world colonies. Unknown cosmic horrors, disturbed by humanity's rapid expansion, stirred in the dark between stars. And always, the specter of the Empire's retribution loomed. Yet for all the challenges ahead, a sense of hope and purpose filled the hearts of humans and their new allies. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy felt the winds of change. Aboard the EDF Odyssey, Earth's newest and most advanced exploratory vessel, Captain Miguel Sanchez addressed his crew as they prepared for their maiden voyage. "We carry with us the hopes and dreams of not just humanity, but of all those who yearn for freedom across the stars," he said, his voice filled with determination. "The road ahead will not be easy, but together, united in purpose, there is no challenge we cannot overcome." As the Odyssey's engines flared to life, preparing to leap into the unknown, the captain's final words echoed through the ship and across the cosmos. "To new horizons and a future among the stars."